Hello and welcome to episode 39 of Tangents Entertained. I'm Mark Holmes and we are back after having a week off. Tonight I'm joined by Alex. Alex, how
Hello.
you doing, mate? You're okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
You was very quick with the hello there. You got in straight away there, Al. You was very keen to get in there.
Yes. Well, it's Star Wars, isn't it? So,
Oh, you've just gone sporty now. I've not even introduced it and you've just gone straight in. But I think it's pretty obvious what we do. Think it's pretty obvious that everyone knew what we were going to do tonight anyway. So, yes. But you all good? All done for Christmas?
No. I'm not in any way prepared.
No.
I've got no time now between now and Christmas. So if it's not done, it's not getting done. So
that seems fair enough to me. Yes,
it's fine. They'll just have to. People, your card's in the post.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Yeah.
I don't really do cards. If I'm honest, Alex, I've never really. Can be honest, I do like one card a year. That's my mum and dad. That's about it. That's about as much card run as I can get away as I want to do. To be honest, I'm not a card man.
No, that's fair enough. To be fair, when I say it's in the post, it'll probably be lost in the post.
Well, I mean, you say it's in the post. I mean, mine's on email. Obviously, I've not written the email yet, but
that's it. Perfect.
Electronic greeting is on its way. But season's greetings anyway to all of our listeners. So. So we hope you're all well and feeling festive, etc., etc. So we are doing Star Wars tonight. So we're not covering Last Jedi. That's going to be our next pod. So me and Alex are going to talk about The Force Awakens that came out a couple of years back.
Yeah, it's worth thinking about that. If you haven't seen Last Jedi, it kind of follows through, doesn't it?
Yeah. So don't watch Last Jedi without seeing the first one. But if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably seen The Force Awakens already as well. Because Force Awakens is only a couple of years old and the world and your wife have seen it, we're not going to do initial thoughts and then do a disclaimer on spoilers. We will just spoil it straight away as well. So if you haven't seen The Force Awakens, if you're one of the 0.2% of the world that hasn't seen The Force Awakens, go and see it first and then come back. But if not, we are spoiling straight away as well. Yeah, so the final thing when I'll start talking and give Alex a chance is Alex has seen The Last Jedi, haven't you, Alex?
I have. I saw it at a midnight showing last night. So I have seen it.
So Alex is shaming me and all our listeners for his geekdom by going to the midnight showing yesterday. I had to be honest, if I could have done that, I definitely would have as well. Did you have fun?
Yes. Oh, it was great fun. Yeah, it was absolutely packed. Actually, surprisingly so. Considering that it was in provincial Milton Keynes rather than the big smoke of London. So yeah, no, it was absolutely packed. So, but it made for a really, really good atmosphere, and it was really good. So,
because I'm right in saying that you're not just hardcore, you're ultra hardcore. As didn't you see this as a double feature with Force Awakens and then Last Jedi?
Well, I had to do my prep for today's podcast, obviously, but I've just gone a bit further and done The Last Jedi as well. So,
fair enough.
That does mean that I'm all good for the next 2 weeks. So
yeah, I was going to say, that shooting sorted out as well. So without saying anything, Alex, because if you spoil anything, even though I'm like miles away, I will kill you.
No pressure.
No pressure. Was it any good?
Yes, it was very good. It's worth seeing. It's a worthy successor to The Force Awakens.
Did you prefer... I only have seen it once. Did you prefer The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens?
Well, no, I've seen Force Awakens a few times because I've got it on Blu-ray as well. But I just wanted to refresh my memory. But yeah, so it's a really hard to choose which one I prefer. There are benefits to both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to tell. What I'll say is and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Last Jedi is actually really funny, and it follows some of the humor that we'll talk about a bit from The Force Awakens, which is great. So if you really enjoyed those moments, then there's more to come.
Okay, all right. I don't think we should say two more because I'm seeing it tomorrow at 6:00. and we're podding about it on Tuesday as well. So
I'm being really careful not to say anything because it's really tempting.
No, I'm sure it is, Alex.
But no. Also, the thing is, I think what was funny was watching it back to back helped me appreciate The Force Awakens a bit more.
Yes.
So it was actually well worth 6 hours of my life I won't get back again. But
equally, 6 hours of Star Wars, Alex.
It was quite an enjoyable 6 hours. Yeah. I really thought it was quite good.
I mean, that's 6 hours of Star Wars. That's a fair trade, really, isn't it? You know, you said 6 hours work, that'd be rubbish, but like 6 hours of Star Wars is a fair trade. That's
actually, yeah, when you put it like that, that this sounds much more productive than my day at work.
And then how much of a break did you get between Force Awakens and Last Jedi?
The running time seemed to be about 2.5 hours for each. I could look up the exact figure, but it's around that. Thing is, there was about half an hour of ads before each. So
there was.
Yeah.
Oh, so time for a wee before everything comes then.
Yeah. A wee and a quick McDonald's to keep me going because I had to stay up till 3 last night. So
with the healthy option, McDonald's excellent. No, that's all right. I'm impressed as the McDonald's open at 3 o'clock in the morning or like at midnight.
24 hours, yeah.
Nice.
But that's not really a good thing. We should, but
no. We should also add that there are other fast food restaurants available apart from McDonald's. We are in no way sponsored by McDonald's at all as well. So
no, definitely not.
When I'm drunk, I'm more of a double bacon cheeseburger, Burger King man myself, but I can obviously also recommend McDonald's as well.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get into Force Awakens now. So it's just you and me today, so we'll just kind of get into it and that. So my thoughts on this, I actually rewatched it again today myself, just to refamiliarise myself, A, for the pod, and B, for tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
I like the majority of this film, but there are some parts that I don't like and infuriate me as well. Like, I think there's 3 parts of a really, really great film here as well.
Okay.
But there's bits that sort of frustrate me. How about, like, we'll go into why and the hows and the whys and stuff. But overall, I'd say that this is, like, for me, just very weak. I think it's superior to the prequels, although I do have a little bit of a soft spot for Attack of the Clones. I'd say it's superior to the prequels, not as good as the original trilogy. I think it's probably like 4th in there. And then I'm not sure how you insert Rogue One now as well. I don't know. But I really like this, but for me, there's a few glaring errors. How about yourself?
Yeah, to be honest, every time I watch it, it's more endearing, which I feel like that is what Star Wars does. So obviously, if you think about the Star Wars, the original trilogy, we've seen it so many times, that endearing nature that it just kind of adds to each time you see it. You go, oh yeah, I love that bit. Oh, I love this bit. Oh, that's great. But that's taken like decades of watching. So like we've really had that ingrained into us. And what was really nice is when you get to this one, each time you watch it, you kind of go, oh yeah, no, that's really good. I'm really in it does this all over again. And I think that's what makes me feel so positive about this part of the series, is because it's kind of, it was so much sort of pressure almost for J.J. Abrams to get it right. And we thought, no, please don't do another Phantom Menace. Please don't do another Phantom Menace. And so it was, we were so worried about that. It meant that, we went into that first showing thinking, this could be awful and that would be horrendous. And I think at the end of it, we were just I generally kind of had a bit of a sigh of relief of, they've done it well. It's not perfect, but it's actually, they've done it well, and it feels like it's a Star Wars film again. And that was what was missing from some of the prequels.
Yeah. I think you're right. And what you're saying is that we talked about, I think it might have been maybe the first Batman Begins and No Limit On, where we said it's a sort of film where like a million things could go wrong.
Yeah,
you know, and it'd be very easy to get it wrong. And it doesn't mean that they're not accomplished filmmakers, because A, it's anticipation, B, legacy, and C, trying to create something new that like it's very, very easy to fall flat in your face. And this doesn't do this as well. I think what J.J. Abrams does really well with this is that it is nostalgic, but not overly nostalgic. So it very much harks, obviously, back to the original trilogy. It mixes nostalgia, but also keeps it fresh as well. So I think it's like, it looks like a Star Wars film. I know that's a silly thing to say, but like it immediately feels and looks like a Star Wars film. You know, it has like, in respect to the editing, like I like the old style transitions of the original trilogy. Yeah. He's very much very loyal to that. You know, he does his own interesting camera angles. You know, when Rey and Finn are escaping, is it
Jakku? Yeah,
Jakku. There's some lovely shots of the Millennium Falcon that he does, and that, you know, it goes up and down, that sort of thing as well. So he does very much keep editing wise some of it the old style, but it is got like a new modern freshness to it as well, which I think is very good. And the first part where I really like that is because I basically think the first hour of this is pretty brilliant. Strangely, I think when Han and Chewie come into it, that's where we start to lose it a little bit, strangely enough, even though they're both great in it as well. But I'm going too far in now. But I think the start is really, really good. And when I talk about the nostalgia versus the new sort of freshness, the decision in like in the story, in the plot, to make Finn a stormtrooper, I think is really, really clever.
Yes, and it's really, it's one of those things where I have to say, like initially when I saw this, I didn't have a huge amount of, I wasn't hugely impressed with Finn's performance, and I thought to myself, oh, you know, he felt, you know, he felt a little bit two-dimensional. But actually, each time I watch it, and I kind of spent a bit more time really focusing on him, and the more I do that, the more I realize, you know, there's much deeper than that. And that kind of explains his responses to things when it comes to the First Order. You know, he just kind of he wants to run away, and I think that's really interesting because, you know, we've had traditional heroes before this. We haven't had, you know, anyone that doesn't want to face this. He ultimately makes the right decisions. And I think that's probably the important measure, is he makes the right choices. But it doesn't stop him from showing his sort of vulnerability, which I think is actually quite good. But it took me a while to get that. You know, initially I was just like, oh geez, he's always fretting about everything, and then he's coming along anyway. And but when I paid attention to his performance a bit more, that does come out. I mean, what did you think?
I mean, like, in regards to characterization and the plot, I mean, as I say, the fact that he's a stormtrooper, I like that. And I think what they've done is that they've looked at the previous films, they've kind of like, well, how can we slightly alter this to make it a bit more fresh and put a new slant on it as well?
Yeah.
And stormtrooper, like historically, you look at the stormtroopers, everyone sort of laughs at them, don't they? Because they can't shoot right, can they? So their accuracy is poor. No. And the amount of them that get shot, like you think of the original trilogy, and you know, even the prequels, the amount of them that just get shot and they just fall over, don't they? And you know, they like the fact that they're killed isn't really looked at or explored, is it? You know, like if we lose one of the heroes, or like when Vader dies, you know, that's obviously like a massive thing and very deep, and we look into that, don't we? You know, that sort of thing. And the stormtroopers are just like the filler, aren't they? Really, you know, like they're the henchmen. And the fact that I think that they've taken like the henchmen, they don't explore it too deeply, but they do look into it. You know, so the fact that his mate is killed, and there's and they do this really clever thing, I think, where they mark Finn before you've seen his face. Do you know it's him with the blood on the helmet?
Yeah.
So you know it's him, which I thought that was quite clever as well.
Yes.
And so those who mark him out was different, and the fact when they're executing everyone in the first act, you know, he basically just can't do it. He lowers his gun when everyone's executing the people that Poe's
villagers from the Poe's gone to see.
Yeah. So the fact that he turns, I think is clever. I think it's like that's quite interesting, quite different for a Star Wars film for that to do that. So, so it's not. I think it's got. I could be wrong. It's the first character that, well, obviously apart from Vader, but it's the first character that's gone from evil to good. I would say I can't think of another character top of my head apart from Vader who's basically has done that. I may be wrong now.
Yeah, I mean Vader's was an arc, wasn't it? Whereas this isn't. This is really. I think it's. So I don't know if he's gone evil to good. I think he is a good person in a bad place.
Yeah,
and they exploring that really actually put an interesting spin on it, because you forgot where the stormtroopers come from.
Yeah, because they fleshed that out a little bit, don't? Because there's a bit of exposition between Phasma and
yes, that's it.
Domhnall Gleeson's Hex. Is it Hex? He's
Hux.
Sorry, Hex. Yeah, I knew it was there. And they sort of say that basically, like, stormtroopers are taken very young, aren't they?
Yeah.
And their families and then conditioned to do it as well. So you don't actually see that, but they talk about that, don't they, as well? Like, there's a bit of like plot, like they sort of talk about it to explain why he may have done that, don't they, as well? So basically, if you're stormtroopers, you're taken from at a young age, because they're not clones as well. Because obviously you don't see clones in this film, but there's a line in the film where it says, "Oh, should we send in the clones?" And Huxley says, "No, my stormtroopers are well trained and that."
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to get away with, like, I think they're trying to distance themselves from the old stigma of the stormtroopers can't shoot, because because accuracy for the most point in this shooting's actually quite accurate, I think, for most of the time. Apart from they're trying to shoot Han. Han just seems invulnerable to shots, but we'll get into that in a minute as well. The only other thing I'd say about the Finn's character is, you're right, and like he's things about that he wants to like he wants to get away from the from the first order. He wants to run and get away and stuff. I agree with what they're doing, and that's what they say he's doing. He says that himself. He just wants to get away, but his character changes sort of yins and yangs a few times. So he does say heroic thing at the first point in freeing Poe and getting away. Obviously, that is because he wants to get away as well. And then he then gets involved with Rey at the start. When she's being harangued for trying to sell BB-8. So then he goes heroic. And then there's also that great scene where he keeps taking Rey's hand, and we'll talk about Rey and Rey says, "Stop touching my hand," because obviously there's an action thing, of past years. A hero grabs a girl by the hand, sort of thing as well. So, it's very conscientious to make and not do that. And I quite like the feminism in the film as well.
Yes.
So there's that, but then he talks about leaving. So when they get to when they try to stay away BB-8, aren't they? In the
they go to Maz's.
Yeah, Maz's. Yeah. So, and then his character changes again. He says, "Oh, I'm leaving now. I just want to go." And then, 2 minutes later on, he's got a lightsaber and fighting a stormtrooper.
So I feel
that they yin and yang him a little bit too much.
I think I agree, but I think the reason for that is he's someone who. Obligation is something that's important to him. So if he makes a promise, he's obligated to follow through that promise. And I think he got to a point where he went, when it gets to the cantina, sorry, and it probably he thought, oh, they're all good now. They don't need me. That's my task, my responsibility is done now. And then I think that at that point it was, right now I need to go, and I think, yeah, it is a bit confusing, but I think I think it does work. But I think the challenge is you need to really be invested in the character to really get under the skin of that, and I think that's hard to do with a character that's essentially completely new. There's no real background to them. So I think that's probably the thing. That's why probably when you watch it again and again, then you get to kind of see this element in a bit more detail. You get to see this element and you kind of understand. Okay, I see what I see what they're trying to do here. It may be not executed as well as it could be, but you kind of forgive that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but I do agree. It does, that flipping feels a bit weird, but I think part of it is that each time that happens, he gets pulled back in. So he ends up going to with the guys to the merchants to the Outer Rim. So he goes into the ship, or almost, and then the First Order ends up firing their weapon on the Republic, and he's like, oh no, what's happening? And then when he goes back to see Han to say, what's happened, did you see this? That's when he finds out that Rey's gone. And so it's kind of, so I think and I think if it wasn't for Rey, I think he'd be in the Rim somewhere and he wouldn't be a character. But because he feels the responsibility for Rey, it ends up, and obviously this is the question, is does he have feelings for her as well?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Yeah,
then it's kind of that kind of overrides this fear that he has, and possibly cowardice, but that's a bit harsh because he's been through a lot, so it's difficult to say that's cowardice, really. Probably fear is a better word.
I think it's fear. It's not cowardice because obviously, and we're jumping now, but right at the end, he does fight like Kylo Ren, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. He's not afraid to do that. It's not like he runs away from stuff when it's right in his face. It's the analyzey bit. It's the thinking. We're thinking with your brain instead of with your heart. And his heart's in the right place. But his brain's making very rational decisions and saying, seriously, dude, get out of there, which, is what we'd all be thinking. So it's quite nice to see it. But yeah, so I think that's good. I actually think that's good because it adds an extra dimension to him that you don't have with other characters. You never had that with Luke. Yeah,
that's true. So we're talking about new characters. We talked about so briefly. We get into it now, and that's Rey, obviously played by Daisy Ridley as well. Yeah. I really like her in this. I think again, when we're talking about a traditional against like new and revigorating it, the fact that the main lead character, or and the main good, so you can't even say good guy because she's female, obviously, as well. And I really like the choice.
She's a heroine, isn't she?
Yeah, heroine, I should say. Sorry, yes. And I like the decision to make I like the new heroine or the new hero female. I think it does give it, like, it does update it a bit. It makes it a bit more modern as well. And I like the fact that they've done that. I just think it just gives, it gives it a new lease of life a bit. And I think it's really good that, traditionally a lot of the female characters in Star Wars, with probably from Leia, there's not really been a lead female character who's much in with the boys, apart from Leia, individual. I mean, you had Padme in the in the prequels. She gets to do a bit of fine, doesn't she? Attack of the Clones, but she's still sort of marginalized as a female character.
The thing is, she was always a and this is the thing. So when you think about when you think of them, it's kind of, they were always in a political role. So
and love interest as well.
Leia is well, they were a love interest, but also where they showed leadership was through political roles. Where and so I think the difference with Rey is she's absolutely physical. It's absolutely the Force and being a Jedi, which wasn't really shown in the earlier ones. And I think there was clearly a bit of her being them being the love interests of the other protagonists. So it kind of, I think it was more that diplomatic approach. They're the talkers, and and the peacemakers, and then the Jedi men were the force of that. And I think so. It's really nice to see that through Rey. And quite right too, to be honest, because it's it's totally the right thing to see, and it just really freshens it up, which is exactly what's needed.
What I like as well is that it's the tick they give the character as well, so she can handle herself in a fight. It's very clear even before she starts developing sort of Force-like abilities during the film. She can handle herself in the staff. There's one of the first things you see of her. She demonstrates with the alien that's got BB-8 tied up as well.
Yeah.
And then she handles herself well. In I can't. Is it Jakku?
Jakku.
Jakku. I can't forget the name. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's the desert planet.
Yes. So she handles herself well in Jakku as well. And then what I also like as well is that when they're on the Falcon and when she's preparing the Falcon, it just becomes second sort of nature to her as well. She's probably using some of the Force there, but she doesn't realize she's doing it as well. But she basically says to Finn, "Oh, hand me this part." It's like, hand me that tool, hand me this part, and she's the one that fixes it. So where Finn's kind of he's kind of the sidekick.
And I think
she's the one that fixes it. She wants to. I'm right in saying that she flies the Falcon, I think.
Yeah, so she flies the Falcon. She
fixes it as well. So
and she fixes it. And I think part of that is comes down to her survival instincts. So I think she's always
because she's been on her own for so long, hasn't she? As well.
Yeah. And I think I think that's important. I think also really the Force Awakens is her journey. And although we have Finn and other characters, I guess it's her journey that it really is the focus, rather than anyone else's. So yes, there's obviously Kylo, but it's not really his journey. It's kind of he's along for the ride with other people. So
I have to ask, when I first saw it at the cinema a day it came out a couple of years back, I thought her first scenes were a little bit weak. And when I first watched it, I was kind of like, oh no, don't do another Hayden Christensen, please. So please don't be the Hayden Christensen Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
Quickly, though, that dissipates as well. So I think, her first scenes, I thought, when you first see her a scavenger, when she's like, when she gets the food and that sort of bit, I thought, I'm not sure about this. But when she meets Finn, I think, and she takes control of the situation, I just referenced the thing she says, "Stop holding my hand. I don't need to hold my hand." I like that. And then, she gets hold of the Falcon, and then from then on, I think she's a really, I think Daisy Ridley's really great in the role. I think she's really good. I think she's really got great. She's got good chemistry, I think, with John Boyega as Finn as well, and I think she really comes into her own as the film goes as well. So your initial, my initial doubts in it are dispelled about 10 minutes later on. I think as the film goes on, I think she gets better and better and better all the way through the film.
Yeah, agreed.
In particular, I like her scene. Well, two things I really like with her is one, when she's talking with Kylo Ren when she's prisoner. I thought that scene when she's resisting him with the Force is really good, and I think that was a nice interaction between her and Adam Driver, who plays Kylo. And then I do love the cameo with Daniel Craig. I don't know if you know, so Daniel Craig is the stormtrooper that Rey tells to open the restraints from and leave the door open.
No,
I don't know if you knew that or not.
I hadn't spotted that. But
if you rewatch Force Awakens again, listen to the voice of the Stormtrooper, and you'll realise it's Daniel Craig. Because the reason why Daniel Craig's a massive Star Wars fan, and they were filming Spectra on the same stages at Pinewood next to Star Wars at the same time.
Yes.
So you had James Bond on one stage and the Force Awakens on the other. So that must have been an incredible place to work in 2015. So yeah,
absolutely.
So so if you rewatch it again, you'll see that it's Daniel Craig is actually the Stormtrooper, and it sounds like him as well. I didn't catch it until someone told me as well. So yeah, I do really like her as a character. So I think it freshens the series up a bit as well. I think she's really good in the role. I think she's really charismatic as well.
Yeah, no, I think actually she it's really good, but I think the problem is when you start off, you can't see that. But I think you need that because you need to have that warmth with her as the character gets fleshed out. I think if you showed it, her being really physical too much, I think too early rather, I think it would have changed it a bit. But the fact that she can just like she basically when Finn meets her in the Nema outpost, the fact that she just has her staff and just knocks him straight to the ground, and then all of a sudden you've got, okay, so she knows what she's doing. Okay, that's really good.
Yeah, she can handle herself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's it's nice. It's really nice to see. This is a really hard podcast for me because I've watched both.
You can't say.
I want to talk about both, but I can't.
Alex, don't you dare.
I'm trying hard. I'm sitting on my hands now. I'm not actually. But yeah,
you'll be unfriended if you say anything. Alex,
no.
You can do it to your heart's content on Tuesday when we do the Last Jedi pass.
When I this is it. I'm thinking, are you going to talk when we talk about it next week? Are you going to rack me and say you said something about that?
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, so yeah, but no,
we'll move on.
I've got no respect for her character. So moving on.
On that note, we'll move on. So I said to you at the start of this, I think the first 45-50 minutes of this film is brilliant, and I stand by that. I think it's really, really good. So we won't talk about each individual scene, but like the first 45 minutes, you're introduced to everyone. I like the first scene when you realise that the plans, or like the part of the map that to show where Luke is. I like all that stuff. I really like the escape between Finn and Poe as well.
Yeah.
So I think the escape is really good when they're about to fly out of on the TIE fighter, and it's still attached to the to that.
Yes. It's funny, isn't it? You just think, oh, they're off, and then it's hang on, no, they're. I just love the fact it just dings. It's like boom.
Yes.
and it's just funny.
So I really like that, and then I like all the stuff when he after he crashes and he meets Rey. So all in all, I think the first 45-50 minutes is great. I haven't spoken a lot about Poe yet because he's in this sort of in the first part and then the last part. Oscar Isaac is a favourite actor of mine. I really, really like him, and I'm really excited to see what he does in Last Jedi. So I'm going to talk about my moans and grumbles about the plot holes and stuff later on, but like my first plot hole is after him and Finn crash, and then you don't see Poe anywhere, and you think he's probably dead or like he's been done, and then he pops up later on, and then like there's a throwaway line that says, "Oh, I got thrown off the ship, couldn't see you, and I went home," or something. And then
how did he get back?
Well, how did he get back? And then his mission was to make sure that BB-8, B still had the plans, and B the plans got to the rebellion. So how do you know that? So how do you know that BB-8 was okay or off planet? And then I found that really jarring. Like even the first even the first time I saw it, I came out thinking, well, you know, you don't really see, you know, they crash. So he got through off. He couldn't find Finn, so he went off, and I found that a bit silly. Like, I thought that was a bit of a big sort of plot hole there. And as I say, there's one bit of dialogue that tries to explain it, but I don't like that. That's my.
I feel like, and this might precede a point that you were going to make, but it feels like there's a couple of cases like that where they've kind of skipped over it for brevity, so to keep it short.
Yeah.
And the problem is that there are other ways of doing it. You know, it wouldn't have been hard, but I guess the challenge they have is, you know, if you knew that Poe had escaped the First Order off Jakku, and that, you know, somehow they said, oh no, don't worry, they're with, you know, they're with Han, so you know they're fine. Would it have helped? Would it have lost then the impact of, you know, when Finn says, "Oh, that's a fine pilot," and you're thinking, "Well, it's Poe," and I think it kind of. So I think they needed this, but I think there are times when you just think, you know, find a better line or find a better excuse. You know, there are other ways of doing this.
Like, I don't need to be force fed anything, and I don't need like a scene to explain everything. But again, I just felt that was just a bit loose there. I just thought, well, you've not really thought about that. And I think you're right. I think it doesn't do that because it's trying to fight through to the next stage of like Finn and
it makes sense
meeting up and having an adventure themselves. So yeah.
It makes sense, but you're right. Is when it feels a bit loose, you do kind of go, oh, you know, okay, it's not quite perfect, but yeah. So I get you on that. That's fair enough.
So we come to a bit after they go off from Jakku, and this is for me where the film starts losing it a little bit and has a bit of a lull. And as I said before, ridiculously, it coincides with Han and Chewie coming back. So we're in the Millennium Falcon. I think it's great that they come back, and that line when he comes in and Harrison Ford says, "Chewie, we're home." I mean, I got lumps in my throat when I saw that in the trailer. Yeah, it was about like 3 or 4 months for the film come out. I got choked up then, and I think I got quite choked up. I think that on screen. I'm thinking it was. I don't know if it was the first time I saw it, because I saw it twice. I went to the West End with a friend to see it again a couple of days after I saw it the first time, and I'm sure it was in that showing that when it was a Saturday night in the West End, and when Chewie and Han first come up, there's a massive cheer in the audience. It's just like almost like a standing ovation. Yeah. There's like a round of applause there was when they were on. That was quite funny, I thought. So I think that's how emotional it was for people to see them both on, and it is wonderful. And I do like their interactions. I think the way that Harrison Ford is very good in this, I should also say as well, and the way he interacts with Finn and Rey is really good. But the whole thing with the space pirates, and that Scottish guy, like, there's something against Scottish people, cool. I love Scottish people. I have a Scottish family. But I can't stand the Scottish actor who's in that, who just seems really out of place in the film. And then that whole sequence when the monster's released and they're running around, that whole bit, I just didn't really work for me. I didn't think, and I didn't really see the point. I guess the point is to show that he's gone back to pirating, hasn't he? He's gone back to smuggling as well. Yeah. But for me, that whole section, I think, takes away from the film. Is too distracting. What was your thoughts on that?
So I think talking about the returning characters is a very good talking point. So I do think it's a bit weak. I think the thing is there are and this is not just in this scene. There are other scenes, but there's certain cases where it seems a little frivolous. So, it doesn't feel like, and so, like, yes, he's smuggling, but why is he smuggling? It's just like, just for money, or like, you could have found a better reason. He doesn't have to be, always doing the right thing. But I think, you know, it was kind of just being a plain smuggler just didn't really. And then the fact that it was just like, you know, some of the flippant comments about like we used to have a bigger crew and stuff like that, and you think, yeah, that is funny, but like, and that's the thing sometimes, because there's a lot more humor injected in this, so that in some cases it works, but then there's other cases where you end up going, yeah, that didn't really work really. And so yeah, I mean, it's kind of it is his return, or both of the returns to the Falcon, you know, that was for me a highlight, but it also felt like, as you went through the Force Awakens, essentially each of the returning characters has their scene.
Yes,
so and it felt like that was their scene, although they had several others, but really their scene was the returning to the Falcon. And then you know, there's a similar one for Leia. So Leia's has a scene with Han,
yes,
and Chewie, for example, and that's clearly her scene and it's her bit. And then there's a little bit for C-3PO and there's a little bit for R2-D2, and you know, so that, you know, clearly they've basically gone, you know, we're kind of bridging between the loyalty and the kind of, you know, love of the original series, the original trilogy, and we're trying to bridge from that to a new set of characters. And I think it probably, the way that they did it works nicely, but they need to just always remember, you know, how is this carrying across? How is this following on from the plot? You know, if it feels like it's not really forwarding things on, then it's not forwarding things on. Move away from it. So you know, like C-3PO's bit really was a bit unnecessary. No one really cared. It was nice to see him, but the red arm is a throwaway comment that I think that was fleshed out in the comics a bit, wasn't it? But it was one of those things that is kind of, just don't put it in then. If it doesn't make the cut, then
I think you've got to have that in, because I think people demand that, though, don't they? You know, like they want, you know, as you're bridging from, as you say, our like from the original to this new trilogy as well. Like, can you imagine the uproar if there was no C-3PO in this, or if
I
know?
I think that was the balancing act, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you've got to have those characters in there, and I think the reason that they give for Han to go back to smuggling is basically because Ben has gone to the dark side, hasn't he? That's what they explain it as. You know, like his going to the dark side has created a wedge between him and Leia.
Yeah,
because they're not really together, are they? So obviously they were together. They had Ben in intervening years, but they've obviously been apart for quite some time now, haven't they? That's the way that's sort of the way it's alluded to, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite interesting how the kind of chemistry between them is a lot more. It's a little stilted because you know, I think you know, their chemistry wasn't as strong as the film plot required it. But I think it was, you know, so it does feel a little bit like they're holding something back a bit. I think the problem is it's really hard to convey that you know, basically they've lost their son to the dark side, and I think it's hard to convey that and the depth of that. And I think they tried to do that, but I think it's just hard. Like, if you're not a parent, you wouldn't really understand.
Yeah,
and it's just difficult, and it's difficult to just show that, you know. So like, essentially it's almost like the death of their son, and things, you know, events like that can tear a couple apart. So I can totally get that. It's just, you know, that anguish and stuff didn't quite. It was a bit warmer. I don't know. They'd obviously gone through stuff. They obviously weren't together again, but you know.
And they do say as well, don't they? They say about Ben. They say, "Oh, they're still good in him," and get our son back and that. So they haven't given up on him, even though he's with the dark side. They still
they've given up with each other.
Yes, they have. Yeah,
so it's kind of I don't know. There's a lot more complexity there that we just don't have time to go through. So I mean, I think it was good, but yeah, it's just a lot. There's a lot of depth there and a lot of digging that you've got to try and do. Oh well.
Yeah, and so as I say, so that thing with the space pirate bit, and the monsters being released, that doesn't work for me. And I also think it drags when they go to. I keep forgetting names again today. Is it Maz?
Yeah.
Maz looks like a dried out prune, doesn't she?
Yep, that's it.
Or dried out orange. Yeah. So you go and again, so I think the thing with the space pirate monster thing, and then the Maz bit, I think just lends just too long. There's too much dragging there again, and I just think this whole middle section really kind of, it. I think the film loses a bit of its, like I was just saying, how great the first 50 minutes is. It loses that energy, I think, because we've got so much of this filler, I think, which we don't really need. And then we have, so they get there, and then they're trying to get like a stowaway for BB-8, and then we talked about Finn trying to get away as well, don't we? About him trying to leave, and then the only real, again, I think you could cut all this. Like, I don't think you need any of this stuff in it. The only interesting thing that we get in this is when Rey finds the lightsaber.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And we see her go back into the past, don't we? So it's alluded to, because Rey and so Luke was training Kylo Ren and new Jedi's, and Kylo's obviously betrayed him as well. So we kind of see a bit of a flashback to that that Rey sees as well. And there's some other scenes I think as also that's also there as well. So we get some flashbacks, don't we? And then there's some dialogue from Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi as well.
Yeah.
And she finds the saber. So that is interesting. But again, I just think all that stuff doesn't really do much to serve as a plot. What was your thought on the whole Maz section?
I think the thing is, and I think he needs to paint to paint some of the depth around the galaxy. And I think like when you look at Maz's place, it shows a lot more of that depth. It's like the Cantina scene in the original trilogy. That was one of the iconic ones, and I think being able to paint that again, it was really quite, well, I wouldn't say brave, but it was kind of, it felt like we needed to see that. It kind of, and I think that's the thing. There's so many elements to things like that, which, yes, they don't really follow the forward the plot on, but when you see them, they kind of help flesh out the galaxy that Star Wars is living in, which I don't think the original trilogy did. I think the original trilogy were arguably really focused, and so yes, this kind of meanders and takes its time and stuff, but it does give you a lot more depth to the kind of around it. You feel like you understand that a lot better, whereas the originals, it's literally this scene, then that scene, then this scene.
I guess it's showing the world more, isn't it? I guess,
yeah.
Or like post the fall of the Empire and stuff.
I feel like it's because also I think it's partly because this particular one picks things up an indeterminate amount of years later, and I think that's kind of that's the issue. I mean, it's what, 20 years later or something, or 30 years,
more like 30.
Yeah, so it's kind of, but because of that, they've kind of have to to show how things have moved a bit. So yeah, I don't find it a problem, but I think they are definitely weaker parts of the film. So I think you're right. Some bits of it, but they're not that important.
Yeah, I just think that could have been cut a bit more, maybe a bit a bit more tighter. But I like the battle that we have as well.
Yes.
So the battle's very, very good. It's also has a beautiful shot of TIE fighters skimming along the water as well when they're coming in. And the way that J.J. Abrams films that looks absolutely fantastic. There's a great what it does is at the very start, when you very first see the TIE fighters, it looks like something out of Apocalypse Now.
Yes.
The shot sort of reminded me a little bit of the helicopter.
That's deliberate as well.
Oh, absolutely, of course it is. Yeah, and it reminded me, because because Kong Skull Island does that as well. It's very much evident in Apocalypse Now with the helicopters. Like I like the way it's framed. Like it's very they're out of focus, aren't they? As well. It's like a day. I can't. It's like a day's look, isn't it? You know, it's hot,
they're silhouetted. They're silhouetted
yes.
on top of the sun.
Yeah, like that.
And they've got that kind of depth to them because of the pattern of the clouds and So no, it's really good, and it's clearly like a nod to that.
Yes, it is absolutely, and I think that whole action scene is all really, really good. So you get some of Finn fighting. He's called a traitor, isn't he? So he's a fighting stormtrooper who has like some kind of like it's like a baton with a sound thing on it, isn't it? He fights that guy. Right. That's really good. We see sort of so we see like Han and Chewie fighting some people. Again, we'll talk about humor in a moment as well. There's some nice little gags in this as well, which is quite good. So I like that whole action scene as well. And I think we should talk about one of the big plot points now as we get into. Was there anything you want to talk about? Sorry, about the fight.
No, it was really enjoyable. I think the thing is, and I have a little bit of some of the fight sequences, and this is one, for example, where it feels like they've got it's almost like a bit like Hobbit. Main characters can't die, full stop. Therefore, you don't feel any peril for them. And so it did kind of feel a little bit like that. Interestingly, I didn't feel that about Finn when Finn was having his fight with the stormtrooper with the baton. There was real peril and stuff, but with Chewie and Han, you didn't feel like that. And I think that's the thing. It's kind of just getting the balance right, really. But then I think sometimes it's difficult because of the injection of humor. It lightens it, but it also it kind of trivializes some bits of it. I mean, I think it's important, and I think it's what actually makes this trilogy really enjoyable. But also I think it's just so it's like get the balance right a bit. Do the light bits after the dangerous bits or something like that. But
I want to talk humor shortly, but we've got to talk about something else before, because if we talk about this big plot point first, that will then slide into the humor that I want to talk about as well. So I want to talk about a big plot point, which is Kylo Ren. What did you think of the decision to make him the son of Leia and Han? Was that a good idea, and was that obvious? What did you think?
Yeah, I think it was necessary because I think he needed to have that connection between Darth Vader and him, and I think doing it through being Leia and Han's son made sense, and I think it just tied everything together. So I think it is absolutely right. It's a really interesting character because you don't really. The thing is, you don't really find out enough of his backstory. I mean, that's true of Rey as well, and you don't see her backstory as much either.
It's teased, isn't it? They're both teased, aren't they? They are in the whole thing. It's like you haven't got to answer this, but I'm guessing that is explored more in Jedi. So in Last Jedi, you haven't got to say anything, Alex.
I can't discuss that.
No, exactly. Yeah. So I'm kind of guessing something comes up from that. I imagine. So yes, don't say anything. But yes, it's as I say, there's a flashback with both of them, isn't there? We're talking about that scene, when Rey with the lightsaber. So she sees herself as a young child, doesn't she? When there's a ship going away, and then obviously she sees the scene where Kylo looks like he's betraying Luke at that time. So
I've got a question there. Then I mean, so do you assume that there's the link between Rey and Kylo, like there's a family link there? Is that assumed?
So I just assumed that they did, because this is a Skywalker saga film,
right?
Where predominantly this is about the Skywalkers, isn't it? And I don't know of anybody. So there's nobody else that displays these Jedi powers at this stage, because this is obviously post prequels with the old Republic and all that, So there's no one else apart from, well, I say Skywalker. Leia's a Skywalker, isn't she? So
I mean, the thing is,
so
lots of Jedis will have, powers for the Force,
but there's no other Jedi, because there's another thing, because obviously the new film's called The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
and something that I realised, which I hadn't forgotten, that obviously when I watched, when I rewatched Force Awakens today, is Snoke says Last Jedi about Skywalker, about Luke quite often.
Yes.
So the term Last Jedi is actually used quite a lot in Force Awakens. And then, because I remember when the title was released, everyone was saying, oh, what does the Last Jedi mean? And does it mean that's Rey? Does it mean that Luke dies? Or does it mean this and that? And now, just rewatching the film, they use the term, it's in the scroll, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it's quite obvious.
At the start of the film, it says Luke Skywalker, the Last Jedi.
Yes.
And they talk about and that term Last Jedi is used quite a lot in Force Awakens. So I assume that the Last Jedi is referring to Luke. Must be.
Yes.
So,
and that's exactly right. It does feel like that.
Yeah. I mean, in regards to Rey's parentage, I mean, the fact that it's sort of teased that she's kind of been left on that planet, and then we get that shot of a child and the spaceship going, it must mean that she's descended somewhere from Skywalker blood. She must be.
Right.
I'm only you haven't got. Don't you dare say anything. But
I'm not saying a word.
But she has to be. If she's not Luke's daughter, then there's got to be a family link somewhere. There's got to be a connection, because it's a Skywalker film. Like family. It's what these trilogies are. So
it does feel like
she must have something in there somewhere.
It feels like Rey is the yin to Kylo's yang.
Yeah, and that's been teased in the trailers, I think. I don't know if that's a deliberate misuse in the Last Jedi trailers as well. So there's definitely something there. I'm 99.9% convinced it's resolved or revealed in Jedi as well. I'll find out tomorrow.
We're going to discuss it.
Yeah, and we'll discuss it on Tuesday. So my assumption, in answer to your question, when I watched the film, I certainly assumed that she was, some part from Skywalker. So
it was just one of those things that when I watched the Force Awakens again, having had time to listen to some of the fan theories and stuff, and I was thinking, but is that spelled out? So I think well you'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Because she can't. Yeah. So I don't think she's related to Harrison Ford or Carrie Fisher. She can't be.
They don't make any reference to the actual parents. They talk about her parents
in the Force Awakens.
But they don't in any way link it directly in the Force Awakens. So it's very much a question.
Yeah, because when Rey is captured by Kylo and he's interrogating her, he's mind reading that, and he says, "Oh, you think that that Han Solo is a father that you never had?" He says that, and there's nothing from the interactions between Leia and Rey that makes you think their daughter and that their mother and daughter are like either as well. There's nothing in that. I don't think from watching it today, and they have a hug and they're talking, that there's nothing in that to me would say that's a mother and daughter connection there. But I don't know. We'll have to see. It's good to hypothesize on this before I've seen the film, and then we can talk about it on Tuesday. I can go, oh no, if only I'd known that, and so yeah. So I talked about Kylo. So I just very briefly on Kylo. I think it was a very, very good idea and necessary to make him the son of Han and Leia, because it adds again the family layer to it as well. So there's more of a connection to it as well. And it just made sense. And I actually, Adam Driver again, I really love Adam Driver as an actor. He's done some fantastic stuff as well. I like him in this. I'll very, very quickly, when he gets in the final fight, when he gets shot by Chewie, he does that thing when he keeps tapping his side that's been shot when he's having the lightsaber duel with Rey. Right. And I wonder if that to me might have been, I think that's Adam Driver doing a bit of ad-lib there, because I don't think that, I may be wrong, but I don't think that was directed by J.J. Abrams. I really like the fact that he keeps doing that to remind us that he's been injured as well, and the way that he does that noise when he does it and the action as well. And I think that's ad-lib from Adam Driver, I think. And that'd be the sort of thing that he would do. So I like that sort of thing he does in it as well. So I wanted to talk about Rey and Kylo Ren first before we talked about humour, because I think some of the funniest bits in this actually involve Kylo Ren. So there are some funny bits in this. So the thing Kylo Ren is that when he gets angry, he gets very, very angry. And when he gets angry, he gets his lightsaber and he destroys everything that he can see. So this is done twice. It's at the start when, and this is why I talk about again about nostalgia versus making it fresh. So there's loads of scenes in the original trilogy when there's a guy from the Empire who's like one of the sergeants who has to go
General Hux. Are you talking about
sort of thing? And but like someone who's a bit.
No, he's the sergeant. Yeah, right.
A bit nondescript who have to tell Vader that something's gone wrong, and then normally Vader just uses the Force and kills them. And then you see this guy when he's got to tell Kylo Ren that the Rey's escaped and stuff, and he takes a big gulp, doesn't he, as well? And, so the android, so the droid escaped with the stormtrooper, and he just destroys everything. Oh, and there's a girl with him as well, and he just he used the Force to yank this guy.
I think there's a lot of humor at his expense.
Yes, there is,
and that's quite interesting, really, because other humor is like you're laughing with them. This is a case where you're kind of laughing at him. I mean, and that's deliberate, but it's
of course, yeah,
it's all right.
And they do it again, don't they? So there's another scene as well after Rey's escaped, after being interrogated, and she escapes. Kylo comes back and sees that she's gone, and he starts destroying stuff. And two stormtroopers who are patrolling come round, don't they?
That's right.
And they see what he's doing, and then walk back. So it was quite good. See, I like that. See, things that are quite funny. I think Han has some good lines when he nicks Chewie's gun, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So I'm going to borrow that and sort of choose and explodes. He goes, I like this gun. And it's little bits like that are quite funny. So there's some good little bits of humour in there.
Yeah, and I think, but that was always, Han always had that. It's just, it needed a place for it. I think what's nice is that other characters have that as well now, which is good. And I think that's what makes it lighter. So what did you think about humor then?
Yeah, I think it's not used all the time, which I don't think you should do. I think when it's used, it generally works. A couple of bits, as you said before, a couple of bits do fall flat, but I think generally they do take the piss out of it when it's right, and it's not afraid to take the piss out of itself. Like I said, with the general sort of gulping and not wanting to tell Kylo that they failed, and that sort of thing. I quite like that. It's quite self-deprecating and self-referencing. So I think I quite like that. So it's humorous without having to, it's not slapstick. Like, he never descends into slapstick or anything like that. So There's a great bit when another bit that I find quite funny with Han is that towards the final scene when they have to get the shields down, and Finn says, "Oh yeah, I used to work there. Like, I know how it works out, And the Han says, "So where did you used to work then? When you worked?" He went, "Oh, sanitation." And you can just see like the fury. So Harrison Ford sells it really well. You just see like the fury in Han's face when he realizes that the bloke, he's not even been working the right section. Like he works in sanitation there as well. He says, "Well, I think we're going to survive." He goes, "Oh, I just thought the Force helped us." He goes, "That's not how the Force works." So I do quite like that as well. And then there's other things when they capture Phasma, and again, Han says, "Does this place have a like rubbish tip?" Or the thing in
that's right, crash compactor.
Yeah, in New Hope when they're getting squeezed. Yeah,
that's right.
Sticker in that, so that was quite good. So yeah, again, it's referencing previous films. I quite like that. So I thought the humor. I thought all in all, the humor is pretty good in the film. It's quite even.
Yeah, no, it is, and I think humor is what helps keep it a family film.
Yeah,
because if you lose some of the humor, it could be, some bits of it will be quite dark, and I think
it would get very, very serious very quickly, wouldn't it, as well?
Yeah. So I think it's important, and I think it's nice to see it actually. It's funny because, like, in those cases you're talking about, Hans, like the voice of reason, the voice of experience, dealing with the new guys. So it's kind of interesting that his quips are light, rather than what are you doing. It's so that's quite cool. I think the danger with some of that is that it trivializes some of the some of the things that happen. So some of the kind of close escapes, and there is a balancing act there. I think it's fun, but it's kind of it's got to be mostly realistic.
Yeah.
If you really haven't planned, if you don't know where on earth you are in the Death Star, what possible hope have you got to know where the shields are and get it switched off, and happen to do that within a narrow window of, so there are some bits like that you kind of have to forget, kind of suspend disbelief for a bit.
Yeah, you've got, if you take it too literally, then you'll go mad on this. So you've got to kind of go with Avenue as well.
But I think it's fine. I think it's okay. I don't feel like, anything is too bad or anything. I think they get the right balance right.
Okay, right. So we'll start to try and wrap things up because we've been going for a little while now as well. So the big thing that happens in towards the end of the film is the death of Han Solo.
Yeah.
So A, did you expect it, and B, how did you think it was handled?
So I think it was handled very well. I didn't expect it because I was, and they lead you down the path of there's good in him, he there really is good in him. I'm going to go and get my son. They really lead you down this route. So to be killed, really has an impact at that time. And I think clearly it's the right thing to do, but it does give it a big punch. And I think that's important. But yeah, so I think it's great. I think the challenge is you don't know enough about Kylo to kind of understand the conflict that he must be going through. So that's difficult in this film, because you kind of you have to take some of this on faith. So he's clearly conflicted. Exactly what it is that he's conflicted about, we can't really we can't really understand yet, and that's a little bit frustrating, because you then it kind of makes this killing him feel a bit senseless. What did you get out of that? Why did you do it? What was it because was it because Snoke said that you needed to do it? Or what was it? And so that's the kind of thing where I think it's really hard, because you had to fit so much into this film.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, it's interesting you referenced Smoke there, because there is he's not in the film very often. He's a hologram, I think, twice, in it. Again, I'm guessing that we'll see a lot more about him and who he is, his motivations, like in the second film as well. Mm-hmm. But you only really see him twice, as I say, twice in holograms, but he's talked about a lot. And both Han and Leia say, it's not, Smoke is basically using you because you're powerful, and deep down you know this as well, that you're being used. But but the film never explains about who Smoke is and how he's able to do that, how he's able to coerce him to go over to the dark side.
Yeah.
So, and I'm guessing again that may be explained again in Jedi as well. Again, as you say, they've only got sort of 2 hours and a half to get through this as well. So, so you don't see why and how he's had such a correcting effect on Ben as well. I think that's interesting, because you don't see that. So you have to take it at face value that for some reason that Smoke's able to do this.
Yes, and that's the thing, and actually that's quite consistent, because you don't know what the history was from the Emperor from the previous ones. And
if you look at Vader in when he kills Obi-Wan in the New Hope, you've got no connection between the Emperor and Vader and other. You just take the face value that Vader's a bad guy as well. Yeah. I wasn't surprised that Han died in this for 3 reasons actually, and I'll just go through very quickly. Because I don't think Harrison Ford would have done this film unless he was guaranteed that Han would die. He famously tried to get Han killed in Jedi, and they said, no, you can't do that, because we made him
he did say that, didn't he?
Yeah, he said, we can't kill for Jedi, because it's supposed to be family, a happy ending, and we might do more films. Also, they didn't until 30 years later on, but didn't know that at the time. So they said to him, there's absolutely no way that it will kill you off, even though Harrison Ford thought it'd be a good idea to kill him off. So I think that's why Harrison, not just because he did the film, because Harrison Ford's now done an Indiana Jones film for us. He's done Star Wars. He's now done Blade Runner as well, which was brilliant this year as well. So I think he'd done it anyway, but I think he got a guarantee that Han would be killed off. I think that's why he did the film. B, story-wise, it makes sense that Ben kills him, because at this moment in time, you've got no real reason to dislike Kylo Ren. He's done some bad things in this at the moment, right? So he's killed a lot of people at the start who you don't really know. He's captured Rey, but he's not done anything really, really evil. All right, he's ordered slaughters as well, but killing sort of Han makes you hate him more, and it gives you it makes him more villainous and gives him more stock for the next films as well. There needs to be a reason why you're supposed to like hate him, or why he's the bad guy. And him just going around being angry, there's a great Twitter account called Emo Kylo Ren that I follow as well. If you get a chance to look at that, it's quite funny. So you need a reason to really hate him, and this gives you that as well. Yeah. So I think it was logistically Harrison Ford probably didn't want to do it again. He said, "Okay, I'll do this one. It'd be nice to do this, but only this one." And it gives the character of Kylo more menace, more story to use, because he's killed him off as well. And thirdly, I knew that Han Solo was going to die. Well, I guessed it anyway before the film. I was thinking to myself, I think he will. But unfortunately, I logged onto Facebook the day I was going to see the film, and some idiot who had obviously gone to a midnight screening, not like you, Alex, you're not an idiot as well, that some prick, I will say, had videoed the death scene of Han Solo on his mobile phone and had posted it on Facebook.
That's a real spoiler, and they knew that it was a spoiler as well.
They did it to be a prick.
Yeah.
And I saw it. I didn't realize, and it's really weird because I have this routine where when like in the morning, I wake up in the morning, you know, and the first thing I really do is check my phone. I think everyone does that. Mm-hmm. And I was bleary-eyed. It's the first thing I saw. And I didn't realize what I was looking at because it was in my news feed. I didn't really see it until like you're half awake still or half asleep still. And it took me a second to realize what I was looking at. And I just pressed the phone off, like flicked it out of Facebook. Don't look at that again, you know. But I'd seen enough to know I knew what it was. Mm-hmm. And so I was waiting for it in the film as well. I thought, like, the first time I was seeing it, I was waiting for it in the film as well.
Yeah, that's so.
So I'm banning myself from Facebook and Twitter tomorrow. So so it's a self ban. So so no Facebook for me and no Twitter for me until about 8 o'clock tomorrow night as well. So
you're going to get so much done, mate.
I know. Yeah.
It's going
to be my most productive day, I think, of the year. That is, yeah. So that's why I knew. But I think story wise and for continuation of the saga, I think it really made sense. So yeah. I've got one more question for you, but before I do that, was there anything else you wanted to talk about the film? You know, anything else anything else about the end? I've got one big question about the end that I want to ask you.
No, I mean, the only thing I'd say is, like, I felt like the plan for the rebellion, the rebels to get Starkiller Base felt flimsy as, didn't it?
Yes.
But to the point where it really felt like I was thinking, you know, rebels, they're a bit amateurs, you know, they didn't. So it was lucky that it all turned out fine, but, you know, I really did feel like sometimes you need a little bit of like planning and a bit of prep.
Yeah.
And it felt like that wasn't going to happen.
On that last act and the plan, I think they're running out of like a running time there. And like, I think Han Solo says something like, I'm like, where's the weakness? There's always a weakness, or, you know, like, oh, how do you destroy it? You can always destroy these things like that. And and we just praised it for being funny and self-referencing, but I actually think that was a bit lazy. And I thought
that's fair.
And I thought that was a bit too much of a good thing. And I thought they actually made it like it sort of lowered the stakes of the peril of it as well. Because you just had this massive scene of them firing this planet gun, destroying several planets. Did it actually destroy the Republic headquarters in?
Yeah.
It is that,
there's several planets that essentially consist of the Republic. Yeah. I'm assuming that Coruscant was on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
They didn't really show you Coruscant. They showed you a couple of random planets. There was a cameo from someone from Doctor Who, I think. I can't remember her name now, but she was
and the girl from Legends of Tomorrow, Legends, the girl from Legends of Tomorrow's in it as well.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Jessica Henwick, who was in Iron Fist and Game of Thrones, is a pilot in one of the TIE fighters as well.
Nice.
Just as a little.
Yeah, the cameos. There were a good few.
Yeah, there were some cameos. Yeah. Okay, so I think that covers everything. I think overall we're saying that we really, really like this film. There are problems with it, but generally, as a reboot of a franchise from 30 years ago, it's a pretty fine job, though, isn't it?
Oh, completely. I think it's, you know, if you given how much was riding on it, and given people's expectations, you know, I think they did an amazing job. I think it was really impressive how close they got it.
Yeah. Okay, so my last question, Alex, is this. Where the fuck is Luke Skywalker in this film?
Where is he? Well, it's Ireland, isn't it? That's where he is.
He's just in Ireland.
Yeah, Ireland's lovely and green and with hilly bits, and that's it. You know,
Ireland's beautiful. I've been to Ireland several times. I can confirm it is beautiful. Visit Ireland, everyone. It's lovely.
Yeah, but well, that's where he is. The really weird thing. Hang on, I've got to be careful here.
Careful. Okay.
Yeah. Let me. No, I can't say. But what I will do is next time we do this next week, ask that same question, and then I'll carry on.
Okay. Let me reframe the question then. So it's more just Force Awakens specific. Yeah. Okay. So all this thing with the New Order is happening. Okay. It's explained to us that Luke has gone into exile because he's been betrayed by Kylo Ren. Okay. Yes. When Han dies in this, we get a shot of Leia basically falling to her knees, or like, you know.
Yes, that's right.
Or being taken aback. Okay. What is Luke doing then? Does he not feel Han die? Does he not realize that Han's in peril and should perhaps maybe try and save his best friend in the world? Like that again. We talked about plot sort of holes there. Again, this may well be explained in Last Jedi, but if you can look at Alex just without seeing Last Jedi, if you're just referencing Force Awakens,
yeah,
is that a bit of a massive plot hole?
It kind of is, but I think the thing is, it helps that he doesn't say any words at all in the film. Okay. So I think because he skips any form of dialogue, I think he's kind of passed the buck there a bit. He's got away with it. Whereas I think if he'd have seen him more in it, then yeah, I think that's reasonable. It may well be revisited. Is all I'm going to say.
Fine. Okay. We'll leave it there in case you accidentally spoiler it. So yes, but I did think overall that was because the film doesn't. If you remember the trailers for Force Awakens, it doesn't specifically say that Luke's going to be in it a lot.
No, that's true.
There's a shot of him, I think it's him with his hand touching R2-D2. I think is the only shot of Luke in the whole thing. So it doesn't. So films, it's not like the film's lied to you all the way through. It never said actually, like, oh, Luke's going to be in this film.
No, it's not. This isn't his story. This film's not about his story, so that's fine.
I did find it strange, like with Han dying, you see Leia going down, like I like being taken aback, but then Luke's not meant to be seen, or isn't, or didn't see him taken aback, or anything like that. I thought that was strange, but again, that might be explained in Last Jedi.
Yeah. Okay.
All right then. Okay. We'll leave it there because you're about to burst and say something very bad. So
not going to say a thing.
We'll say nothing. So yes. Okay. At that point, we're going to leave it there. So we went around last week. We had a bit of a break last week after doing our Dark Knight episode. We will be back, everyone, pre-Christmas next Tuesday for our Last Jedi spoilerific episode, when it will be joined. So it'll be me, Alex, James, and Paul, I think, and then me and Alex can re-talk all about this, and I can now, and when Alex doesn't say anything, it makes total sense to me now as well. Yes.
You're going to say, I knew it.
I knew it.
And I'm going to be like, I didn't say, I just didn't not say. Yes. Anyway, we'll talk about that.
So we'll say goodnight now. I'm going to start my 24-hour ban on Facebook and Twitter. Great. And we will see you all next week. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
We're good. There we go.